Alrighty, everybody. Some of you may have been following my series of articles about casting out the ethanol demons from older motorcycles, in particular the couple of articles that I did about my 76 KZ900, which, as you can see here, is all nice and back together. I cleaned out the carburetors, and I cleaned and sealed the tank, and she's running really well now. And hopefully won't have any more issues. But I decided to also do some things, similar things, but also some different things with my '83 Honda GL650 Interstate. That's this bike here, which you can see is in a state of partial disassembly. I've got the carburetors off. There's the weird twisted V-twin engine that Honda used in these bikes, which are pretty uncommon. At any rate, the thing that I'm doing with these carburetors, I get over here to the workbench to show you, that's somewhat different than the KZ. The KZ, I've had that bike a long time, and I don't know, probably 15 years ago I upjetted the bike, so the carburetors really didn't need any modification, they just needed cleaning. However, this GL, I've owned the GL now, I guess about four years, and it had the factory jetting in the carburetor. These are the carburetors, little Kehian carburetors. Show you the other side. They're all nice and clean now, and free of ethanol debris. Oops, I dropped an O-ring. Not good. Got to catch the O-ring, not lose the O-ring. At any rate, what I wanted to talk about today is the jetting in these carburetors. And here's two of the cleaned up jets. These carbs are a little bit weird. They've got a typical main jet, that's this, and this is the brass stock that the jet fits on. I don't know if I can do this with one hand, but the jet actually unscrews from that. And there's the needle that goes up and down with the slide, and that's where it fits inside the carburetor body. These carbs also have what Honda calls a secondary jet, and that's this little sucker right here. And that screws into the carburetor body right there on top. Then there's a pilot jet, which is in there, and on this carburetor it's covered with a block-off plug. And that's apparently fixed in place, and you're not supposed to even try to take it out. It's supposed to be in there indefinitely. At any rate, the point that I wanted to make in this video is that these carburetors were jetted by Honda from the factory assuming 100% gasoline. That's what was available back in the late 70s and the early 80s. As a lot of you people may know from reading my columns, they began to introduce ethanol and also MTBE into the fuel system in the 80s. One of the reasons that they did that, in addition to paying off the corn lobby, was allegedly to reduce the emissions of older vehicles, like all these vehicles that you see here in my video, which have carburetors and do not have computers and don't have the ability to adjust their air-fuel ratios. So, by using gasoline, in quotes, that's how I put it in my articles, that's actually 10% ethanol alcohol, effectively you're running a lean air-fuel mixture. There's less gas, less energy content in the fuel that you're running. So the carburetors are running lean, which means that the engine is probably going to run hot. That's a typical issue that you have with lean combustion. And with motorcycles in particular, that's potentially dangerous because, of course, they're alloy. Most of them, many of them are air-cooled, and they're more vulnerable to overheating, which can lead to major problems, as well as early and premature wear. And bottom line is you just don't want a leaned-out and hot-running bike. So accordingly, I'm going to upjet this set of carburetors. Normally, you only do that when you've modified the bike, as in the case of my Kawasaki here, which has a big bore kit. Also, it's got these aftermarket pod air cleaners in place of the factory air box that would normally be back here. And in addition to that, it has, of course, the aftermarket exhaust system, a 4-into-1 system. Originally, the bike had a 4-into-4 system. So by increasing the airflow, it was necessary to increase the fuel flow and upjet the bike in order for it to run correctly. This 83, on the other hand, has a factory stock engine, has not been modified in any way, has the factory exhaust, and it has the factory air cleaner right here that goes into the air box here, and I intend to keep all of that. So I'm only altering the jetting to compensate for the difference in fuel that is now available. Well, available really, that we're kind of forced to get. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I've gone up about 2 sizes, which is typically what you do. These This main jet is a number 118. You probably can't see. It's stamped on the side. A lot of the times with the Mikunis, it'll be stamped on the top. On these Kahian jets, it's on the side. Same thing with this one. It's on the side. If you haven't got sharp eyesight, it might be difficult to read. You might have to get somebody who does have good eyesight to show it to you. At any rate, I've got those on order, and I'm going to pop them in here, and I'm going to see and note what the results are, and I'll do a second video to let you know how that goes. I'm pretty confident, pretty optimistic that the bike is going to run better, that it'll particularly under load, it will run less hot. Should get a little more power out of the thing too, effectively again because it's compensating for the less energy dense ethanol fuel, getting more fuel to the engine. One other thing that's not really related that I should mention, just for any of you out there who piddle around with these bikes, I found, let me get it as an example, that removing the carburetors from this bike is much, much easier. You don't have a whole lot of space to work with. If you do it this way, if you first unbolt these, the air boots, the intakes, you see the two bolts on either side, and then loosen the clamps here that hold the boots to the air box. And then when both sides here are loose, you can rotate the carburetors away from the engine. Then you can take off the push-pull cables and take it off the bike. And it seems to me, at least seems to me, to be a lot easier that way. I'm not sure whether that's the factory protocol. I haven't got my factory service manual. Haven't been able to find it. It's around here somewhere. But at any rate, that's what I did. I'm going to have an article up at epautos.com that will get into some greater detail. And there'll also be a follow-up. That should be posted in a few weeks. So hope this is helpful, and please come on to the site and leave your comments, pro or con. I might have missed something, let me know, and we'll catch up with you next time.